BYD are selling hundreds of thousands of the BYD Seagull now in China, and also the Wuling Bingo is also selling in similar amounts, almost as much. So this is really, really great. I love that they're selling them. I may have mentioned this already, but why can't we buy them in Europe or Australia yet? When will we be able to? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you that don't know me, I make EV news videos every day. Apologies for not posting for the past couple of days though. I was on kind of a small holiday, bit of a break. So, you know, it's been a while. So you may have seen a picture of me and also Barbara, the family camel, here in Queensland. I noticed that some of you had seen that, so it's a pretty cool picture. It's kind of rare to see a camel floating around a farm with cows. So BYD have been doing so well selling their cars most places that they try to sell them. The EV market is flooded with overpriced EVs, I think, generally speaking. BYD, I think, is pretty much one of the first brands to actually offer good quality EVs and at a cheaper price. But that's not to say that they're cheap. You know, they're not cheap cars, or even, as someone actually said in the comments recently, just because they're Chinese EVs, that doesn't mean that they should be cheap. I can't count how many people in the recent comments in my videos, how many people have actually told me that they have placed an order for a BYD Seagull. Brilliant car. You're going to love it. I'm sure you are. And as you know, that's a hefty bit of money. That's a big deal if there are so many people buying them. So BYD Seagull, it would be a great car. If I could buy one, I would literally buy one tomorrow if I could. But they don't really have plans to sell it globally just yet, and I don't think they could even produce enough and get them out there, to be honest. BYD have said that they will import it to Australia. They've said nothing about Europe, and they didn't respond to me about that. But I've no idea, genuinely, if they're going to or not. I just don't really know. Do you think they will bring it to Europe and Australia? I don't really know. In a recent video, loads of you let me know that you would buy one if you could, and I actually forwarded that video and you know, your comments and whatnot to the boss of the company that imports them to Australia, and I've had no reply. You'll be interested to know. So the electric vehicle sector is witnessing remarkable growth globally. This is interesting. Forecasts suggesting that the sale of approximately 15 million EVs globally this year. So to put that into context, there are something like in the order of 40 million currently on the roads around the world right now. So to sell 15 million in a year is a huge jump. That's the nature of the beast we've got now. So China continues to lead in sales volumes, of course, while Norway dominates the market share in terms of EV registrations as a fraction of new vehicle sales. It's almost 100% really. So Norway's only a small country of 5 million people though, so it's, you know, it's not actually, you know, a massive deal, but it is sort of being used as a kind of benchmark, or like I don't know, a beacon for the future, I suppose. So, you know, it gets referenced a lot. Sweden is actually making notable strides with their EVs, claiming a remarkable 60% market share in recent sales, as reported on Clean Technica. So diving into the success stories from China, Wuling Bingo, you probably don't know what it is, but it is a really common car now in China. And the BYD Seagull, you probably do know what that is if you're watching this video, and it's me talking. Two small EVs had loads of attention. And especially from me, I keep talking about the Seagull. It's got the same sort of dimensions as a Honda Jazz, and it's almost perfect. The battery could be a little bit bigger, but for the price is just a win, I think. So both of them were launched earlier this year. Both models have brilliant sales. Both of them have exceeded 150,000 units in less than 9 months, from March to October. So the Bingo sold 150,293. Don't quote me, I think it is that. It's just over 150,000. The Seagull has actually sold 185 to the end of October. So that showcases an appetite for small, practical, cheap, affordable EVs in China. They would sell huge amounts, similar amounts, I think, if they just chucked it in the UK and sold it, and if the price was reasonable. So if they bothered to try to sell it there, people in the UK, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm English, of course, they love small cars. And I think generally that's because people in the UK have had fairly high petrol prices, and there's a bit of a tax incentive to get a cheap small car so that you can only pay a small amount of yearly tax rather than a bit more, whatever. So, but now it's electric. I think people would buy one. A lot more people would buy one, and it's a fantastic place for a car like that because of the range that people tend to drive, and it's just perfectly suited to a BYD Seagull, I think. The BYD Seagull priced at $10,690 and it's a compact hatchback. Just think of a BYD Honda Jazz, basically, and it is equipped with, you have two choices of a battery. The one you'd most likely get is 30.8 kilowatt hours, and it's a part of BYD's E-Platform 3.0 under the Ocean series, and that features a single electric motor delivering 75 horsepower. So it's kind of just a on and off type deal, isn't it? 75 horsepower, put your foot down and you wait till it gets to your speed and then you're fine. It's not a fast car, but a lot of us have done with 70, 80, 90 or 100 horsepower for 10 or 20 years. It's not an issue. 75 horsepower is reasonable. So 135 newton meters of torque, which is good, and a top speed of 130 kilometers per hour or 81 miles per hour. And the Seagull offers two blade battery options, like I said. Ranges are 305 kilometers and 405. That's along with pretty decent charging speeds, 10 to 80% in 30 minutes, or just under, actually. And the BYD charge curve is it's like a step, so it goes really, really quick to 60, drops down a bit like that. So BYD, they've got generally a really reliable, good charge curve. On the flip side, the Wuling Bingo, a joint product actually of SAIC, which is a state-owned company, and GM. So the Wuling Bingo starts at a price of just under $9,000, and it shows because it looks a bit crapper. And it comes with two motor options catering to more consumers, really. This for me is where the party's at, I think. Forget $70,000, $80,000 Teslas and EVs. They're nice, of course, they drive well, lovely cars, but I just have a love for small, cheap, practical cars that you wouldn't mind if you dented or scratched in a car park. I don't think you should be feeling devastated when you find the new scratch on your car. You should just be a bit annoyed. And I think if you've got a $10,000 car, you're much more likely to just be a bit annoyed than a $70,000 car. So actually on my car recently, I had the back bumper painted, and it's like maybe 2 weeks old, the paint, and I scratched it the other day. It took me about 20 minutes and I was fine. I'm not bothered. I get that some people want $70,000 cars though. That's fine if you've got the money and you're not bothered and you don't mind thinking about depreciation and thinking about washing and polishing a car and all that sort of stuff. If that's your thing, that's your thing, but that's definitely not mine. With the technology as well, there's the potential to manufacture millions of these type of vehicles annually. It exists. So the challenge lies then in ramping up production and orchestrating the logistics to broaden the reach of these cars globally. So this is just an idea I had. Local assembly around the world, I think, might be a good option to make the globalization of these cheap, small, slightly crappy EVs possible. But it's not looking great because it seems that basically in the West we aren't bothered about selling cheap and cheerful EVs yet, which is annoying because I would love to have a BYD Seagull Omni-Drive in white or black or something. So as a side note, I'm imagining that some of you will have actually seen the fantastic chat between the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Elon Musk. And I don't know if many people are really in the know with just how fast the AI business is going. It's evolving. Elon Musk said, I think, probably 5 or 10 times faster than anything else he's ever seen before. Hugely fast. And there was an interesting part in this I'll put the chat below. It is 50 minutes long though, but it is really interesting. There is a part where someone in the audience asked them, how will AI affect the day-to-day regular lives of ordinary people? Will they still have a job, you know? And the British Prime Minister jumped in with some political answer. He kind of butted in front of Elon because he didn't want Elon answering that. And he was saying things to the tune of, AI is actually creating jobs, which is such a typical political answer, isn't it? But Elon basically just said, any job that is trivial, unsafe, you know, anything that's just simple can be done by AI. So it's just a matter of if you want people to have jobs. And then, the British Prime Minister did a really awkward laugh. Hilarious. It's a brilliant, brilliant chat, but it is 50 minutes long. So I think the truth is that I think people that are poor will be out of work, basically. All these like laborious jobs, they're going to be going slowly but surely over the years. And rich people, or people with more of a skill, may be able to make more money and considerably lower their liability, I reckon. What do you all think about AI and where it's heading with regards to autonomous vehicles? The elections next year. We've got elections in Indonesia, US, probably the UK. And the talk is now from Elon and the British Prime Minister is that there will be huge amounts of people, setting up like 1 million bots spreading misinformation to alter elections. And that's pretty much within arm's reach right now. So that's kind of where it is. And so how do we stop that? Do we charge something like £1 or $1 for every account on Twitter or X? It's called X now. How do we do that? How do we deal with this? Because all the things like capture, can you identify the traffic lights is really easy for AI to do that now. So how do we validate and how do we stop people just setting up spammy things now on comments? And I've already noticed that sometimes if someone in the comments says something negative against Chinese EVs, very quickly there's a pretty blanket type response sometimes to those comments. It's a bit weird, isn't it? So that's the world we're going into. It's a bit tricky. Strange to think that there are people still that don't really know what ChatGPT is or what AI really is. It's definitely not Alexa. It's definitely not Siri. We're not talking about that. We're talking about actually crazy, incredibly smart stuff now. So it's within arm's reach, and it's kind of as big of a deal as when the internet first came around. You have to wonder at what point things will calm down with the sales for the BYD Seagull and the Bingo, because if you look at this chart, they're absolutely chucking them out. It's just nuts to think, and it doesn't seem to have any resistance at all. There's no like curve. It's just sort of going up and up and up and up. More and more people are getting them, and if you have 11 grand in your bank right now, and you could either get one of them, which one would you get? I'm all in for the Seagull. I think it's beautiful. Thank you for watching to the end. Remember to subscribe if you would like to keep watching more of my videos. And I try to keep them a bit different, but all interesting if I can. But it helps my video spread on YouTube if you do subscribe and click the little bell icon to accept notifications. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much for watching. Any comments, just put them below, and I do read all the comments.